All right, so we are on video 2.5 and we are looking at notes 2.5 on page 6, about halfway through our page. And what we're going to do is we're going to be working on isolating variables. So how do I isolate a variable? Well, to isolate something, it means to get it by itself, right? So let's go ahead and solve this regular equation like we would solve this equation right here normally, and see how that's related to this crazy equation that we have here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Well, 3 minus 3 cancels out, so I end up getting 2x equals 6. Okay? Then I would divide both sides by 2, which means that x equals 3. Okay, now how is this related to this piece right here? Well, if you notice, the A right here is like this 2. Okay, the B right here is like this 3. And then the C right here is like this 9. So it's the same idea. Now, how am I going to do this? Well, do you see how here we got rid of the 3? We subtracted this 3 right here. Well, instead I'm going to subtract the b. I'm going to get the b by itself. So I'm going to subtract b here, and I'm going to write minus b right here. Well, b minus b cancels out. Now here, 9 minus 3 gave me 6 because these two are like terms. I'm allowed to put them together. But c minus b are not like terms, so I'm going to say c minus b. So I end up getting ax equals c minus b. Now, to get rid of this a, since this is multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide the whole thing by a. So I end up getting x equals c minus b over a. And that's my answer. But I can also write this out as c over a minus b over a. Either way is acceptable. Okay, so let's look and see what it says. For the following examples, isolate for the variable given. So in the first example that we have here, it says that I want to get the a alone. Well, to get the a alone, I need to see what's on the same side as the a. Well, I've got a b, and I don't want that b there. So how do I get rid of this positive or this plus b? I want to make it nothing. So the opposite of adding b is subtracting b. So I'm going to subtract b from both sides. B minus b is 0, so I'm left over with an a, which is my goal. And then here, d minus b are not like terms, so I just leave my answer as d minus b. And that's my answer for question number 1. Okay? Now, in question number 2, it says c equals 2 pi r, and hopefully you recognize that this is the formula for the circumference of a circle. And it says to get the r alone this time. Well, that means that I want to get rid of the 2 and the pi. So what's the opposite of the operation here? Well, what operation do we have? We have multiplication. So what's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2 pi. Well, this 2 and this 2 cancel, this pi and this pi cancel, so I'm left over with an r. So I get r equals c over 2 pi. Have I gotten the r completely alone? Absolutely, so I'm all set with number 2. Okay, so let's take a look at number 3 now. Number 3 says to isolate for I. So that means that I want to get the I alone. So this I needs to be alone. Well, it's being raised to the power of 2. So how do I get rid of this power of 2? I do the opposite of squaring, which is square rooting. So I get a equals I squared. So I square root both sides. So I end up getting this square root and this square cancel. So I end up getting I equals the square root of a. Okay, so now the next equation is y equals mx plus b. We're going to get the x alone. So this one's a little bit trickier than the last few ones that we've done so far. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to get rid of the number that's not attached to this x. So I want to get rid of this b right here. Well, how do I get rid of a plus b? I'm going to subtract b. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So right here I get y minus b equals mx. This b cancels, and y minus b are not like terms, so I can't do anything with it. So I leave it as y minus b. Well, since this is m times x, The opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide both sides by m. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side, and I divide the whole thing by m. So I end up getting y minus b over m is equal to, the m's cancel here, so I get x. Did I get the x alone? Absolutely, so I'm done with this problem. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at number 5. In number 5, my goal is to get this b alone. This is another tricky question. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my fractions. So I don't like this 1/2. So how do I get rid of it? I multiply both sides by 2. So if I multiply this side right here by 2, I multiply this side by 2. Well, this 2 and this 1/2 cancel out. So I end up getting 1mv squared, or just mv squared. And here I end up getting 2e. Okay? Now my next goal is to get rid of this number in front of the v squared. Remember, our goal is to get v alone. So how do I get rid of this multiplication? The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by m. Well, my m's cancel out, so I get v squared equals 2e over m. Well, what's the opposite of squaring something? Because that's what I want to get rid of now. So to get rid of this square, I'm going to do the opposite, which is square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. So I get v equals 2e. Sorry, let's keep everything on the same side. So I get 2e over m square rooted is equal to this square and this square root will cancel each other out. So I end up getting 2e, the square root of 2e over m is equal to b. Okay? All right, last one on this page, 3 more to go. So this time my goal is to get the y by itself. So first thing I want to do is get rid of anything that's not touching the y or attached to the y. So I'm going to get rid of this minus d. Well, the opposite of subtracting d is going to be to add d. So whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. Well, negative d and positive d cancel each other out, so I end up getting xy equals m plus d. Okay, remember my goal is to get y alone, so if I have xy, I want to get rid of this x. Well, it's connected to the y through multiplication, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. These x's cancel, so I get y equals m plus d all over x. Did I get the y alone? Absolutely, so I'm all set to go with this question. All right, so let's take a look at page 7. And on page 7, it says to solve this equation right here for h, which means I want to get this h alone. Well, that means I want to get rid of the L and the W. How do I get rid of it? Well, if it's all multiplied together, I'm allowed to divide, because the opposite of multiplication is division. I'm allowed to divide by L and W. The L and W cancel out, so I get V over LW is equal to, I've got my h left over, done. Okay, and then the last one right here is number 8, solve for w. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the 2l. How do I get rid of this 2l? I'm going to subtract 2l from both sides. So I get I'm going to subtract 2l from both sides like this. So minus 2l minus 2l. These 2l's cancel out, so I get p minus 2l equals, I've got my 2w left over. Well, what's the opposite of multiplication? It's division. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. So that means that p minus 2l over 2 is equal to w, and I've gotten my w alone. Okay? This is a tricky concept, so if you have any questions, come see me and I will help you out.